Hello and welcome, everybody. Again, very happy and pleased to have you with us today as well in our second episode of our webinar from Reload HR, myself, Aladdin, and Sonia. As discussed last week, our journey will take you through the transformation and the journey of transforming your HR towards an agile function. And if you remember well, last week we gave the background, we gave how and why today it makes sense to move towards a strategic HR with an agile structure to support your company, as well as where does your company stand today, or your organization or your HR in the landscape of your of today's, let's say, transformation, overall journey of transformation or transforming HR towards an agile model, and how this will be very decisive to which path you should take and which pace or speed you should use to drive this transformation. What we mentioned and what will be the vectors of our transformation, as mentioned last week, is two things: the target operating model and how the target operating model has to be built for sustaining and supporting the growth of service levels supporting an agile HR on one hand side. On the other, at the heart of the agile transformation is the agile projects. And exactly how can we run agile projects? How can we build agile projects in HR? Where to start building HR projects in an agile way? This is the topic for our discussion today, for our webinar, and this is the journey that my colleague Sonia will drive you through. So I'm handing over to Sonia.
Thank you, Aladdin. I'm happy to pick up and dive in directly into our first vector, which are the HR projects. Before we start with the topic, it is very important to mention how to run projects in an agile way. So what does it mean when we talk about agile HR projects? And for this reason, we had a look at the Agile Manifesto, the values, and how they translate into projects. So how can you make sure that when you run the projects, they actually will be successful? Looking at the values from the Agile Manifesto, maybe these are new to you, maybe you are familiar with them, but these are the four of them. We have individuals and interactions over processes and tools. We have working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. What does this mean for the projects? That's the key question. So when we look at the first one, we really need to focus in the projects on the individuals and their collaboration. We need to create communication channels and break the silos across the departments. This is a very critical element because agile projects really require cross teams and department collaboration. It's not just HR sitting in silo or IT, but it's HR and IT working together. As an example, achieving or going towards a common goal. The second value, software is important over comprehensive documentation. So what does this mean? We need to really produce prototypes and working models very quickly. This does not mean this needs to be an IT-related product or a prototype. It can be maybe a small form, a small updated process flow diagram. It could be a prototype system feature that is implemented. So really produce them quickly and scale up at need. The third value is a customer collaboration over contract negotiation. What we are trying to say with this example is that our customers, which are in many cases employees of your organization, need to be involved at every single stage of this solutioning process, from idea generation to requirements definition to actual deployment. We want them involved and we want to collect feedback regularly. And the last one is also probably familiar to you. If not, let me explain. It's responding to change over following a plan. So by now we know that plan looking forward 6 months, 10 months ahead will not work any longer. Why is that? Because we are in an environment where things constantly change, whether it's the budget, whether it's the time, whether it's the scope. So we need to have iterative cycles that repeat and that are very quick and fast to react to these changes. Having said that, how do you start as an organization? How do you identify your pilot project and HR initiative as a starting point? This is the very key element. And for this, we offer the following steps. First, it's very important that we start with putting in listening mechanisms in and simply identifying the critical pain points of your organizations. What are your challenges? What are your problems? Where can you, which challenges can you resolve? How do you do this? With few simple steps. You can put in place customer service, analytics, engagement service, and other things, text mining, that will really help you gather this information and identify the challenges. As an example, maybe a challenge is that my employees don't feel welcome on day one. Could be a result of this step. After you have completed this step, we're moving to step number 2, which is solutioning, hackathons, ideation sessions. So we have our challenge and we now need to get the right group of actors, the cross teams together and generate ideas. This is very critical and this step is a must step. I would say the most important step in this area to really generate ideas. So it could be a chatbot, it could be a new process, a new step in the process, a new form. Does not matter, but we're generating the ideas. In the final step, we prioritize. We really look at our solutions, our ideas, and put them on an impact assessment or impact feasibility metrics to help us prioritize. What does this mean? So on x-axis, we have the feasibility, showing how easy or how difficult it is to implement this solution. What is the degree of efforts involved, complexity of technology, are there any cultural barriers, etc. And on the y-axis, we have impact. So how many people get affected or impacted with the solution, the entire employee group or just some? How much time is saved and things like that. So looking at the metrics, the bottom left corner, feasibility hard, impact low, we would not want to focus on. On the other hand, the top right corner, feasibility easy, impact high, that's our clear winner. That is a clear yes. The rest are maybes.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting, thank you. Also, I would like to ask now, with regards to the business priorities, so all companies have their own business priorities, perhaps projects running for some time. How can we embed this to this specific step of starting our journey?
That's a very good question, and thank you for bringing this up. So of course, the business priority sits like an umbrella across all these steps, meaning that when we have the challenges, when we have the solutions, we move hand in hand in line with the business priorities. So of course, we don't want to implement something or focus on something that is completely out of line. Instead, these two things need to go hand in hand to really make sure that this is the pilot, this is the project that is also in line with what your organization needs at the moment and what is their priority. Having had a look at the starting point, let me just briefly give you some concrete examples on some challenges and possible solutions so that you can imagine it a little bit better. That also we have come across quite frequently. The first challenge states, for example, that we don't have a unified system. Our employee data is dispersed across multiple systems and we don't have unified reporting. This is a common problem or challenge many organizations are facing. So what could be the solution to address the problem? It could be a full cloud product implementation. It could be a third-party, pure solely reporting implementation. However, I understand this is a massive product and a massive project. Of course, you can break it down. You can make pilots out of it. We know that every product, every project implementation has different phases. It comes with data cleansing, job mapping, grading. You can split it into different steps and make mini projects even out of this challenge, which seems really massive. Looking at the next challenge, it could be our employees don't feel welcome, prepared from day one on the job. So what do we do? What could be the solution? We break down the onboarding process. We look at what could be done better, and possibly, maybe a quick win is on day one, computers are set up, or there is a coffee with the CEO ready. Small things, small initiatives that maybe are not working at the moment that could be implemented are as quick wins. Maybe another challenge could be that we need to enhance the employee experience and our HR is spending too much time on repetitive work. So what could be maybe a result of our project generation? It could be a chatbot. Very simple, as we saw before, impact high, and feasibility also in a way that it's in the top right corner. So you want it, it's easy to implement, it affects a lot of employees. And also a solution which is easily scalable. So these are really just some examples so that you can put it into perspective, how to start, where to start, what is applicable, what is right for your organization. So having said this, we have identified our challenges, generated ideas and prioritized. Now we need to staff our team. We have our pilot and we are ready to go. So how do we staff the team? Looking at an example of cloud product implementation, what we recommend is the following setup, of course applicable to other initiatives as well. We would have a product owner, a core team, often referred to as a development team, and a Scrum Master. So as a short description, who is a product owner? Product owner is somebody who really decides about the product. He makes the key decision and he manages deliverables. To put it into perspective, this could be from your local organization, maybe HR systems manager, implementation manager, and similar roles. Then, of course, we have the core team, referred to as the development team. These are the people that get the things done. Without them, there is no product. So, of course, for IT projects, this could be solution architects. However, also HR business partner, HR analyst, someone knowing the processes would be part of this team. And then we have the Scrum Master. This is generally someone who makes sure that these agile values, Scrum values, are followed, and he or she coaches the team on this methodology. He or she also removes the impediments. So the general recommendation is to hire somebody externally for this role, at least for the beginning, so that this person does not know the challenges of the organization into a very detailed level, in a way that this person can ask the right question, enable the team to work most efficiently, and later on maybe get someone internally for this role to staff. And of course, not to forget are our customers, which in this example is our HR community and also employees. So we have our team, ideally 7 to 9 people, and we can get started. Having said this, now moving to the last part, this is in a way a repetition how to run projects in an agile way, is the following. We identify problems at a source, we form cross-functional teams, prototype, test, iterate, and scale up to success. So this is a reverse engineered project or way to run projects. We don't run using the waterfall methodology where the strategy was decided top down, the solution was determined top down, because this is not efficient. This does not prove to be successful in these environments any longer. Instead, we are now on the right part, and that's our path to success. Looking at this and having covered the projects, I hope you learned something new and you can apply it at your organization directly. Nevertheless, this is just step one. There is one more step that needs to follow. And I give you one more example how this relates so that you can better imagine it. So imagine that you have your projects, you have identified your projects, you have staffed your team. But how does it feed? How does it end up? Maybe you will have your HR generalist who already works overtime now needing to spend even more time on this additional initiative. On top of this additional repetitive work, transactional work, this person is doing at the moment. So of course, something else needs to change, not alone the HR projects. And this is the part that we will look a little bit or in more detail during the next session. So from my side, thank you for this part. And Aladdin, I hand over to you to give a little bit of a snapshot to what is expected for our viewers in the next session.
Exactly. Many thanks, Sonia. This was really insightful. And I think this is the first pillar, as we discussed, for this transformation. And exactly like you mentioned, we cannot run this in a silo way or in isolation from what's happening in the organization. If you're going to build your teams that will focus on more strategic work, you will have to think and reinvent where will your admin work go, where will the transactional work go now. And that's falling directly into the realm of the target operating model. How can I ensure the service levels that will allow me to focus on more strategic levels, and that will allow me to focus on more strategic HR work? And this is the topic for our next webinar. In the next webinar, we will dive into the structure. How should an HR organization look from structure perspective, and how all the components of it and the service levels interact between each other and allow for this smooth transition, since, as we mentioned before, the vector or the core of this transformation is really the projects. And to scale up your project, makes them reach all of your organization, you have to think about setting the basis for it, which is your service levels. So many thanks for your attention today, and looking forward to meet you next week for our next episode of this webinar series. I wish you a great evening.
Bye-bye.